This is the Visual Developers Podcast with your hosts, Lacey Kessler, Matt Varghese, and Ben Parker. Interviews, no-code reviews, tutorials, and more, we're here to talk about all things no-code.
Hey everybody, Ben here from Visual Dev FM, back with another episode. I'm joined, as usual, by my co-host, Lacey.
Hello.
And Matt is not with us this week, but that's okay. You're going to hear him in the interview. This week, we have Duncan and Tyler from Memberstack, and we're so excited to share this interview with you. We got to chat with them, and it was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed the conversation, and we got into a lot of really good things that I think you're going to love. But before we get there, as always, we're going to do our no-code roundup. So let's jump in. What's new in no-code? Mackenzie Child. Flowmingo, we mentioned it I think the last episode, but Flowmingo has launched. It's available. Go check it out. He tweeted, "Today's the day. The Flowmingo beta is open if you want early access. Learn Webflow by building designs from scratch, from practice and repetition, with a community forum if you need help." So it's flowmingo.co. And this is so cool. Mackenzie just makes the coolest things. It has some of the coolest projects. Yeah.
Have you seen the illustrations for this? Have you seen them? I look at them and I'm like, I could never. How do you do it? I don't know how to do this. I don't even know where to start. It's so good.
Chef's kiss emoji. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely great stuff. And I love the illustrations, the way he thinks about things, his approach to stuff, his projects, his designs. Everything's so good, front to back, top to bottom. He does such a great job. So if you are interested in learning Webflow, if you're trying to up your Webflow game, this is where you need to be. You need to go check out Flowmingo, get signed up. It's going to be super cool, and I can't wait for everybody to check that out.
Yeah, and I think on his, if you're teetering on the side of should I invest, should I invest in this course? Should I, it's a fair amount of money, but Mackenzie also put out a really great YouTube series where he used, I think, Airtable, Memberstack, and Webflow to build out. So look at that as a tester. We're not getting paid to say this or in any way, shape, or form, but it is really good information to have. If you want to do your due diligence, check him out. We highly endorse him with zero kickbacks. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he's wonderful. No ads here. It's just one of those things where we love the work he does, and we know that if you jump in with both feet, you're going to learn a lot and really enjoy the experience. So we hope you check it out. Our good friend Bram from No Code MVP, he tweeted about Road to Scale, which he built it with Card, Zapier, and Airtable. So that Zapier Airtable is super common for a lot of people, but he tweeted, I'll keep repeating myself, it doesn't matter how you deliver value, just deliver the value and people will notice. I made roadtoscale.com with Card, Zapier, and Airtable, and 20,000 people have used it to date. And yesterday it was acquired by a San Francisco-based VC firm. So first of all, congratulations to Bram. This is super awesome. It couldn't happen to a better person. He's just so kind. And I love that. I love seeing products built with no code being acquired, being picked up. And I think that he's dead on. I mean, we talk about this all the time on this. In fact, it was your take that I loved when we were talking about, what is no code? And you were like, who the freak cares? Just build stuff and ship it. Right. And I think that's what he was talking about here. It's hey, it doesn't matter what you're using. It doesn't matter, how you do it, but just shipping things and making good content, putting it out consistently, it matters. And it really makes a difference. So
yeah, I think so too. And it's so that, even my own take on it is so in some ways antithetical to who I am, because I am a perfectionist. And so I'm it needs to be a certain way. It needs to be perfect, all of these things. But I love that though, because Bram's approach that I'm really, really trying hard to adopt is no, it's the meat of what you're putting out. It's not how pretty it is. It doesn't matter if you consulted a designer. It doesn't matter all these things. Like, you just need to ship, and no code allows you to do that so much quicker. But it's like, it's hard for me in some ways, because I want a perfect package. Like, here's your beautifully designed software and I hope you love it, you know. But he's dead on. I mean, he made it with easy tools. I mean, you know, easy tools comparatively, but and he put it out there, and I hope that that's encouraging to other people who have an idea. Like, you don't need a designer, you don't need all of this over the top stuff. You can use very simple tools to get it out there, and it was acquired. I mean, how crazy is that? That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It makes me think back to, I used to, when I was living in Las Vegas and I was working at this church and I was doing video production, and I would put out multiple videos every week, you know, 4 or 5 videos every week I was pumping out, and I was a team of one. And I'm a perfectionist. I was young. I was definitely a perfectionist at that point. And, you know, I'm color grading and doing all these things, all these steps. And I was just sweating getting videos out every week. And, you know, one of my mentors in the creative world was just like, hey, don't let great be the enemy of good. You know, that was something he preached to me all the time. Like, getting it out the door and it doing what it's supposed to do is better than it like looking like it should win some sort of Academy Award. Like, that's great when you can do it, but it's also not worth killing yourself. Then that was a really hard lesson to learn. And I think it still is for a lot of people. Like, and I think part of this is that piece where we're not sure that we're good enough, you know, that inferiority complex. And, you know, so you just don't ship it because you're like, oh, I still need to check X, Y, and Z. And it's hard to ship things. You feel very vulnerable. You know, you put something out there and you're like, oh, people are going to comment on this and they will reflect on it, you know? So it's hard.
It is. And it makes me think about how often we compare our middle of the process to someone else's end of the process. And we're like, well, that's where they are and that's where I should be. But you don't see that it's taken them years to get there. Even like when we've done projects together, and I'm like, I get so frustrated with your why can I not get this as quickly as he does? But then I'm like, he's had years at this that I've had. And so, you know, and greatly to my benefit too, because we're on the same team and I'd never want to work against you. But it's like, you know, we have to not look at, we need to look at the important things and not like these ancillary things that in the end, like, don't necessarily make the product better or the service better or whatever.
I think you're 1,000% right. You know, when we start playing the compare game, it keeps us from shipping. And I think we have to do everything we can to avoid those situations and to try to just make sure that we're putting out quality content on a consistent basis. But I loved that tweet from Bram. It was super great. Joshua Tiernan, who is of No Code Founders, he posted, we want to just say congrats to him. He was also acquired. He's a part of We Work Remotely, and I think that's a Tiny job board. So I would assume they were acquired by Tiny, Tiny Capital.
Shocked.
And so Tiny's buying every no-code thing on the planet right now. It's really awesome, but we're investing in it. It's really cool. But Joshua tweeted about it. Links to all this is always in the show description to all these things we've mentioned. But you know, this was his first bubble project. It was called RemoteCircle. And it's been acquired. It's now part of the We Work Remotely family. And so we just want to say congrats to Joshua. This is super cool. And in true Josh form, he is still hustling. And so not only did he get this acquired, but he also started a brand new newsletter called How to Fell at Business. howtofellabbusiness.co. If you want to get some great insights, you know, it's going to be great if you're a no code maker, somebody who's looking to ship some products. You definitely want to go sign up and check that out. Last week, we had a bunch of no-code ebooks drop. I say a bunch, two. Two's a bunch because there's not like it's not like there's a bunch of no-code ebooks. Yeah, so two's a lot. And we had an episode about the future of no-code. The future is no-code last week. So you know about that. You know about the project from David. Once again, we want to say, you know, thanks to him props for letting us be a part of that. We're super stoked to be a part of that project. But Webflow also released the No Code Revolution, and you can find it at wfl.io/no code ebook. But this is a variety of authors, and it's everything from, there's some business and entrepreneurial pieces in there. There's some no code stuff. It's about how to use no code in your marketing and marketing teams and different pieces. So there's a lot of great content in there. You definitely want to go check that out. If you're, looking to build a tool with no code, or, maybe you're an agency or you're a freelancer, you just use a lot of no code products. There's a lot of great insights in both of these books. I think that's going to be super helpful to you. So I hope you go check them out. Links to both of those in the show description, but wanted to make you aware of this. In visual dev news, so Lacey tweeted about this, but we're highlighting products, services that were built using no-code tools or platforms and tools that will benefit the no-code space. So it's a series we've got coming that you're going to see and hear a lot more of. But if you have, if you're building a no-code tool, great, we want to hear from you. If you've built something with no-code, great, we want to hear from you. Definitely, there's a link in the show notes. There's a form you can fill out so you can connect with us and share some information. But we'll have some videos and obviously podcast content around all of this. We want to hear from you. So definitely don't hesitate to share there. One thing we always want to do is highlight the no-code community and what everybody's doing. So we think I'm so excited about this. This is a great idea from Lacey, and I think you're going to love the content that's coming there.
Yeah, I'm really excited to showcasing all of this, because I've gotten such amazing feedback already of things that are built and about to launch, or that have already launched, or different tools that are coming into the space. And there is so much thought and heart and soul being poured into these products that people are seeing that, either, hey, I built this product without code and, I use these tools because I saw that it would benefit, my community in this way, or I see a business opportunity here, or, products that are coming into the space that, are filling in a lot of gaps that we have. And it's really, really interesting to see the differences of different products that are being created and the mindset behind them. And so I'm really excited that we can build up the community more around this, and I really have a great way to showcase what's being built and how it is, and to also give these people that are putting all this effort into either building a product without code or a product that's to the benefit of the no code community, putting it in front of people so they can see it. A lot of these people are on super small budgets, or like us, we're doing this on our own. And so I love that we can share that with other people, and just getting it in front of more eyes, and it's only going to make the whole thing better.
No, I completely agree. And it's going to be fun, and it's going to be fun not only to learn, to see what people are putting out, but then also to learn how they did it, get some insights, to share more of the practical knowledge with the community, and to help spark ideas. So we're super excited about that. This also kind of goes into what we talked about last week too, a little bit about building our own community, which we're super excited about. It's a place to share. So anyway, hit the link in the show notes. Let us know what you're working on. We'd love to hear from you. Paul GRSL, so it's at GRSL_FR on Twitter. I followed Paul. I saw a tweet from him just searching no code, and he built webflow.com's homepage in 2 hours using Card. And he says, if you're interested, feel free to comment, let me know. I'll show you soon how to build this landing page. And don't hesitate to tell me the next landing page you'd like me to see, because he's going to keep building these. And it's webflow.crd.co if you'd like to check it out. It's actually incredible for a card site. It's
good job.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Job. Yeah, it shocks me. I mean, I wouldn't have known this is Card. Nothing against Card, obviously. We all know I love Card, but it's wow, this really does show you how powerful Card is. If nothing else does, if you don't see any other website that shows you how powerful it is, this 100% does.
No, it's one of the most clever uses of card I've seen. I saw it and was like, dadgum, that's impressive. Like, it's really good work, and I enjoyed it. And it sounds like he's going to be showing how we did it and be building more. So if you're interested in learning about card and diving into that space, definitely go follow Paul. Seems like it's going to be a great follow and a great way to pick up some tips on using card and really taking your card game to the next level. So good stuff. Speaking of Webflow, Bryant, who's the CTO and co-founder of Webflow, he tweeted that Webflow added 297% more monthly recurring revenue in April 2020 than in April 2019, which is bananas to think about. Businesses are coming online, freelancers are busy helping them, and no coders are here to stay. I loved this tweet. I thought it was super cool. It's awesome to hear about wins in the no-code community, and that goes top to bottom, bottom to top. Whether you're a freelancer, whether you're building this bigger business that empowers no-coders and agencies and freelancers and enterprise, I think it's super cool to see these wins. Really makes me happy.
I think so. I 100% agree, and I even more so agree that he did no coders without the dash, which I think is really a good way to write it. So
Wrong.
no.
I mean, he could technically fire me tomorrow, I guess, but I'm going to say it's wrong here on the podcast. If he asked me in real life on Slack or something, I'll probably say, no, that was completely right.
It was doctored. We doctored the audio. No, I think that's so great. I mean, happy for Webflow, of course, and then just like, this is becoming a thing, and anyone who says it's not a thing is wrong. Just wrong.
No.
So
yeah, they're not accepting reality. That's what I say. Airtable had a new piece out for iOS. You can now group records by one or more fields. So you can group records in the desktop version. But be able to do that on iOS is super cool. It's not a huge update, but if you're a Power Airtable user, you might have already seen this, but definitely something worth checking out, that update. Michelle Tandler. I did not follow Michelle previously. I also found her searching just through some no-code tweets, and she launched her first Glide app, her first app, TryLifeSchool. We need to have her on, by the way. It seems amazing. But she tweeted, today was a milestone for me. All my career, I've worked in back office or support roles, strategy, product, marketing, professional services. Now she's building. Now I'm building. No boss, no instructions, just ideas. And as of today, when she tweeted that, 1,000 people have downloaded TryLifeSchool, which was built with Glide. Which is super cool. See someone using a Glide app, building something so awesome and robust. It's a really great looking app, and this is a super cool idea. I love seeing people building with no-code tools, but I also love one of the things I think that's great. We've talked about this here in the podcast is like the democratization of web app and web development and all of this piece, software development, is that it gives more opportunities to a lot of people. And I love seeing people who, I mean, this is a great example. I've worked in all these other roles and look at me, I'm creating. It's just super cool.
Yeah. And that's like one of the beauties of no code is that we all can be developers and we can all be the solutions to our own problems, or find the solutions, create the solutions to our own problems. And like, this is awesome. I have adjectives I want to use for how cool I think this is, but because we're on air, I won't. But I think that this is great, and I'm super pumped, and I'm going to reach out. This is awesome.
Yeah, one thing we've talked about on this podcast too is there's just not enough women in tech or women makers in this space, it feels like. And so it's so cool to see somebody not only doing it, but killing it. Like, that's great work. It's good stuff. And I hope you guys go check out the app. I downloaded it before this podcast started and can't wait to dive in. But strong work, Michelle, and maybe we can have you on sometime and get you on the show. So Wade Foster tweeted from Zapier, who, if you don't know Wade, and it's not exactly no-code related, but I love this tweet. There was a tweet that he quoted that was, if you consistently do something, kind of goes back to Bram, today, instead of scheduling a meeting for next week, your career is likely to be far more impactful than most. And he quoted that tweet and said, default to action is a top value at Zapier. I love that, default to action. We talked about that a little earlier, but I don't know, really hit me this week. So if you were thinking about should you or should you not do something, default to action, go do it. get after it, and push that product out. And then let us know what you're doing, because we want to hear about it. We want to share it with the community.
Absolutely. I read this and it really got me. Like, it took me a minute to like really let it sink in. And then I was thinking about the, default to action. And like, I am a career procrastinator. Like, if I got paid how much I procrastinate on things, like I would be sitting really good. But and it was really good to me, because that's something I'm really trying to hone in on and do better about. And it was like, defaulting to action. I just love that thought and that mindset, and I'm really going to explore that more. So I agree. Right. Not no code related per se, but really we're all makers, entrepreneurs, creators doing something. We all have something that we put off all the time. And that's just a really good reminder.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those things, even when we started the podcast, we just sat around and talked about it. I was like, fine, we're doing it. Like, we're just putting it out. It doesn't matter if anybody listens, but here we are 30 some episodes later.
Yeah.
Life is good. So default action. Wix Editor X, I don't have a ton of content about this. We talked about it a little bit a few episodes back. I will say I did spend some time working on it, and dove in for, I don't know, probably a good 7 to 8 hours over the weekend, a couple weekends back. And it was intriguing. So I want to do an episode about Wix Editor X. If you're somebody who's tried it and given it a spin, I would love to hear from you, because I'd love to include more than just my take, or maybe Matt and Lacey's take about this. I'd love to hear what other people are saying about it. It's there's some really interesting things that they do that I thought was super. It was pretty cool. Like, it wasn't, my expectations, I guess, were low going in, but I really enjoyed the experience. There's a lot of things that are limiting, obviously, and some things I was hoping to do, and we'll talk about what some of that is in detail. But I was surprised, and there's some pieces that I thought were pretty neat. So
yeah, would you say that was it something that you expected from Wix, or was it better or worse?
Yeah, I would say I still don't know what they're trying to do. I guess, it's weird, because is it better than Wix as you know it? Yeah, it's way better than Wix as you know it, right? Like, it's a step in the right direction. But can you do the same things you can? For me, like, Webflow is the measure. It still sets between old Wix and where Webflow is at, right? It doesn't come all that direction. It doesn't truly abstract away from the code. Trying to reuse different pieces or styles is kind of difficult, and there's some pieces about it that are super frustrating. But there are some things that are in there that did hit me that was like, oh, that was cool. Like, and there's some pieces that really stood out to me that I was like, oh, that's a neat feature, and I really liked it. So I don't know, but I still don't know, because some of those features, like I said, you don't have all this fine. Like, I've always thought, like, you could look at a website and you can rebuild it in Webflow and make it look exactly. I mean, you can get it exactly the same, hand code. It doesn't matter. You can do that in Webflow, because it is an abstraction of the code, right? Like, you can do that. In Wix, I don't think you really truly could. Like, you could get close, but you couldn't make it exact.
Yeah.
And so, but then at the same time, they have these things like dev mode, where you can install packages and do all these things and upload files. And, I was like, well, that's crazy cool. But then, like, you can't dial the design in exactly where you want it either. So, like I said, I'm not sure where, because you get like these really advanced pieces, but then you still can't.
Yeah. Super limited.
Yeah, you're limited on some. So anyway, we'll talk about this in detail in a full episode. You'll get our hot take. In fact, we've been talking about doing a Webflow, WordPress, Wix, card episode we've been planning. So we'll have that soon. But if you've used Wix Editor X and you have some thoughts on it, we'd love to hear that.
For sure.
Then I saw this tweet from InfoSec Taylor on Twitter. Name is Ashley.
So sad. Like, really.
This tweet hit me. Yeah, and it's like she tweeted, "I had a close friend reach out and ask me to teach her husband everything I know." She codes everything I know this weekend because he has a job interview on Monday. I said it would be impossible since he's never worked with computers before. she said, you do it. How hard can it be? And the thread goes on and talks about how depressing it is and how it's like caused a rift in a friendship. But in the no code space, I do think I brought this up because I do think there's this notion that since it is no code, it's easy. And I don't think that's necessarily true. Just because we're not using code or using low code, it doesn't mean it's easy. And there are a lot of people who want to be able to stand something up really fast. And I think no matter, one of the things that no code allows you to do is move fast, but there's also, if you're starting from scratch, or if you're not, if you don't understand how these things work, or if you're just not kind of a natural at it, yeah, it's still going to take time. And I've actually had some of these interactions with people who have DM'd me on a forum or DM'd me on social media, like, hey, can you teach me how to do X, Y, and Z? And it's like, oh yeah, I made this video. They're like, yeah, I watched that, but like, I need more detail, but I need to launch it by Tuesday. And it's like, okay, I don't know how to, like, and you want to help people, but you don't know how to help. But this just really hit me that I feel like, I don't know, I've been there, but then I also love the fact that no code comes in this gap, and it does allow, like, it wouldn't allow somebody to go get an engineering job, but if somebody had a product they wanted to build, you could kind of quickly get them to that place, on some easier flows. I don't know, this just kind of hit me in the gut. It bummed me out, but it also really hit close to home on both sides. One, that I love that no code helps people capture that idea to be able to like take things from start to finish without having to spend 6 to 8 weeks. But then also, if you want to no code like at this really high level and do all of these really crazy automations, it's probably not something you're going to learn overnight either. So I don't know.
Right.
Tweet that really hit me.
No, I agree. And like, it makes me sad for her and sad for like it reminds me of like, when you do client work or any type of contract work or whatever, and it's like, okay, yeah, I can have this solution back to you or this product back to you in X amount of time, and it's going to be this much money. And they're like, how can it be that much money if it only takes you this short amount of time to do something? It's like, you're not realizing that it took a long time and a lot of effort for me to be able to turn something around this quickly. And that's also what you're paying for. You're paying for the education, the background, all of that, because that expertise is all coming into your product. And it made me feel like you can't just regurgitate all of this stuff within like with this example, within a weekend. And it does make me even more, excited about the school and excited about what we're doing like we talk all the time, like this is so much different and so much more than like stitching tools together and like, I made this thing, it's like there's so much really in-depth background that needs to be covered and gone into so that you can do this and you can create any kind of product. Your limitations, how high you can go and how low it's going to go. And anyway, that's kind of what it made me think, is like just someone who doesn't understand the broader scope of this space. And poor Ashley, like, she needs a hug, like she's just
1,000%. No, you're right. I mean, and I 1,000% agree with you, and you do that work and somebody's like, oh, it's a quick turnaround, so it's cheap. It's like, well, just because I did it quickly doesn't mean like I'm still delivering value, right? And there's that part of it. But then too, yeah, you're right. It's also about how you think. And if somebody doesn't already kind of understand how things work, or if somebody, if it doesn't connect with them quickly, like a lot of times, it takes time, and that's okay, right? You can still ship things. I see people all the time who are like, I love no code Twitter, people sharing their journey. Like, I don't know it all, but I'm getting there. And this is the first thing I built, and it's really awesome. I love that it empowers people to do things, but also, sometimes it takes time, and that's okay too. So anyway, I don't know, this tweet just really spoke to me for some reason, and I wanted to share it, talk about it. But link in the show description if you want to go support Ashley. So good stuff. All right, well, that's it for what's new in no code and our no code roundup. And now we have our interview with Duncan and Tyler. We're so excited for you to check it out. Hope you enjoy this conversation, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Visual Dev FM podcast. We are so excited for today's episode. We have the co-founders of Memberstack with us, Duncan and Tyler, and we are thrilled to talk about their platform, talk about their investment, talk about what they're doing. And if you didn't know this, Duncan and Tyler, when they did Memberstack, it was actually the first thing that was built on top of Webflow for not only memberships, but I think just in general, if I'm not mistaken on that. So let's go ahead and jump in and start asking them some questions and see what they have to say. So Duncan, can you kind of give everyone some insight into your background, like jobs that you have, the position that you hold at Memberstack?
Absolutely. So first off, thank you for letting us on the show. This is so cool. So yeah, my name is Duncan Hammer, and I do pretty much all the design at Memberstack. And I guess I could go more into like career stuff too, but is that enough right there?
Yeah. So all the design. So did you start out in design? Is that like your education background, things like that?
Yep. So I guess my first job was actually Tyler and I started a landscaping company together in high school. Just like hired all our friends, knocked on neighbors' doors, mowed lawns. And that's kind of how we got started with business. And then built a little web app, kind of hired a guy to build a little web app, which is how we got hooked on software. And I designed that in PowerPoint. That was so much fun. So I went to school for design for about 3 months before I discovered Webflow, which is why I left school because it was senior portfolio week. That weekend I discovered Webflow, and my first Webflow project was, I just like cloned something that was like really cool. And it was better than all those senior portfolio projects. I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go get a job. So started building websites, and that's pretty much what I did before starting Memberstack.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. And what about you, Tyler? What's your background? And so Duncan's the designer and Tyler's the coder, right?
That's right. Until Monday, we hired our first engineer to help me out, which has been a big change, a good change. But yeah, my background is fairly short. I mean, Duncan and I, we've been best friends ever since, I think, preschool, Duncan?
Yep.
So we've like known each other forever, went to the same school, graduated together. And after we graduated high school, I went to college and took my first computer science course. And that's like really where I fell in love with coding. And prior to that, like Duncan said, that we had like a little side project that we paid someone to build for us. So we had like a limited experience with like building websites, and kind of going through that first like CS course I took. That's kind of like where I fell in love with coding, and then ended up graduating from there. And then 2 months later, we started Memberstack.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was that fast.
Well,
Wow.
And it was actually, because it kind of went through a few iterations. I would say it's like, that's when the first landing page went up, when we were like identified the problem, and eventually we came up with a better name for it.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the first name?
The first one, I think we just called it like codeless login or something, and put up a landing page.
Memberstack is better. Yeah. So what was the little side project thing that y'all had someone build?
Yeah, so it was called Formatically. It's actually still a thing. It's formatically.com. It's a citation tool for students and college students to help them create citations. And kind of what sparked the idea is when we were in high school, the go-to tool was called EasyBib. And it was just like plastered in ads. It didn't really work that well. And we were just like super frustrated we had to use it. And we were like, there has to be a better way. And we couldn't find one. And we thought it was going to be pretty simple to kind of like create our own version of EasyBib. And that's kind of like how Formatically started.
And I want to add something to that, because he's right. We both were like, oh, this won't be too hard, right? It's just like, this is software. I'm sure we can build this. And we didn't know about Webflow at that point. Like, we ended up trying with WordPress. We were looking up articles, and we were coming at the whole, like, we have the same problem as everybody in like the whole no code movement, where it's just like, there's this barrier between us and the thing we want to accomplish. And we went at it by just like trying to go through the code without really learning it. And it didn't go well for us. In the end, like we're able to learn the code, but like that, I think, was really important to our like understanding this problem, and then realizing, oh my goodness, like here's an example. Actually, it took us 4 years of school and iterating through versions to get to where Formatically is today. With Memberstack, we can rebuild it in a weekend.
Wow.
That's insane.
You're
Did
kidding
you?
me.
So did you take the money that you generated from the landscaping business to hire a dev to build Formatically? Is that the process? That's crazy.
That was the process.
That's hustle right there. So what was the intention with building the app, with building Formatically? Did you want to charge people for it? Was it going to be completely free? Like, and do you still maintain it today?
So yeah, that's a good question. I think the like long-term vision of Formatically was I think we fully expected to be working on Formatically like right now. And we were going to charge for it. Like, I think we were going to have like a pricing tier where we would allow for like free users, but we did want to make money from it, which we found out was going to be incredibly difficult. Who would ever guess that students don't have money to pay for things? Which kind of is what's kind of stopped it in its tracks and made it easier to decide to like start working on Memberstack.
That's wild. So you two are quite the little entrepreneurial pair then, with the lawn business, with Formatically, now with Memberstack. I'm sure they're going to take over the world in some later iteration of their plan. That's wild. Okay, so let's talk Memberstack now. So where did that idea come from? And did it come from, okay, well, just tell me where it came from first.
Yeah, I would say it actually originated from Formatically, because at the time we were building out Formatically and we got to the stage where we wanted to add user accounts and payments to the platform. And we started researching how to do that. And after like we came out of the research going, wow, there's really not an easy solution to do this. Like, there are all these tools available to like collect payments, and there are like a few tools available to like add user accounts, but we couldn't find a tool that solved both problems at once. So I think that's kind of like what sparked the initial idea for Memberstack, where it's like, if we create something that combines user accounts and payments and makes it actually easy to integrate this on any website, then we could actually personally use this. And then we later found out that a lot of people had the same problem as us. And but yeah, I would say that that's kind of like what started the like initial conversation around building Memberstack.
Very cool. And so you were building the Formatically on Webflow, right? Or was that the initial landing page and then that's when you ran into the issues?
Yes.
Yeah. That is so interesting. So was it difficult to build like initially, or try and figure out what you needed to build?
Oh, for Memberstack?
Yeah.
Yes, I think, well, actually, maybe yes and no. Maybe Duncan, you could jump in here, but I feel like at first I think we assumed the problem was going to be like easy to solve. It's like, oh, we just want to have user accounts and we have payments. Like, why would this be so difficult? And then once we started like diving into it and then just realizing that there's so much complexity that's involved, that's kind of like when we realized that we could either probably spend a year building something and maybe at the end of the year, people would like using it. Or we could start small and kind of like reach out to the community. And at that point we were like pretty big into in the Webflow space. And that's kind of like when we made the decision that we wanted to start small. We wanted to bring in a few like early adopters and just kind of build Memberstack on the feedback from the Webflow community.
So I'm curious, like how you went about building it. I mean, I don't know how many no coders will enjoy this part of it, but I know that I've played with JetBoost, which is also built to work on top of Webflow, and it seems like they use Heroku and some different tools, which is something that Matt and I have integrated into some Webflow projects. Like, what was your process, and how did you figure out what tools to use, and how did you come about making those decisions? Like, just can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like, so kind of rewinding like a year and a half ago, we had never built like a production ready like piece of software before, so that was like fairly new to us. So we wanted to make it as easy as possible to actually finish and be like scalable and maintainable. And so during that decision-making process, it's like if there was something we could do where we wouldn't have to build it ourselves, that was the route that we would go to, or that was the route that we went with, even if it ended up costing more money for us. And an example is like Heroku. So we wanted to build Memberstack initially on Heroku, so we wouldn't have to manage our own servers like on AWS, which helped us out tremendously, because the first reason is because it's like it helped us launch Memberstack faster, because there was just so much work on the AWS side that we just didn't have to do.
I'm also curious to add to that, like, would you say school had a big part in like your current day knowledge, or would you say you're pretty much self-taught? Like, how did you get the chops here?
I would say on the web side of things, I'm pretty much a self-taught, and I think Duncan would agree with that. Like, so the computer science degree I got was very like, it was non-web related. In fact, there was, out of 30 classes I had, I think there was only one class on web development. So coming out of that, it was definitely a learning experience to be able to work with websites.
But it seems like the real benefit of that was on the kind of like deeper understanding of like how these things work. And I think that's absolutely essential to us building Memberstack, because like at the end of the day, we're responsible for, at this point, hundreds of thousands of people, their data is in Memberstack. And I think like what college gave us was like the confidence that, yes, we are doing this at like industry best standards. Like this is the way to do this. That would have been tough without it.
That's true. We probably wouldn't have had much confidence.
I didn't even think about that, about all the data that's being passed through, and that you're gatekeeping, and like, wow, that's a lot. And so how many, I don't know if you can talk about, how many users do you have on Memberstack?
Yeah, we have, I think last week we crossed over the 9,000 mark.
This for free customers, like free users who like have a website with Memberstack.
Very cool.
That's seriously
Congrats
impressive.
on that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's so great. So which platforms, like where's Memberstack available? We know Webflow, what other ones?
So at the moment, Webflow, SquareSpace, Card, Duda, and then I think the biggest segment that we have right outside of Webflow is actually just custom websites. So these are people that they're not really using a website builder. They're just, they're building the site through just straight up HTML and CSS, and they're able to also use Memberstack.
Awesome. So if not Memberstack, I would love to hear from each of you on this one too. Like, what's the no-code tool you wish you would have founded? Like, if it's not Memberstack.
Ooh, that's a great question. Here, can I buy myself time to think and flip it and ask you the same question? Yeah.
Yeah, if you can, if you want to, I'm happy to answer. I think jealously, I think Memberstack is on my list. I love what you have built, and it's amazing. But if I was throwing another one, if not Memberstack, Parabola. I really like Parabola. I think it's a fun tool to play with. I really enjoy the experience. I feel like it's smooth. I love their design. I like how they handle errors. I feel like they do a really good job of telling you what needs to happen when things don't work. And so, I don't know. I really enjoy that tool.
All right. Thank you. I thought of one. I would say Webflow. That was, in my experience of like trying products, that was the most aha moment I've ever had, right? And it was that whole experience in college when it made my entire $80,000 degree obsolete. Right? It was in that moment when I said, I get why this exists, and this is cool. And we want to do that too. Like, that's kind of like what we want to do with Memberstack for other people. If it could be like, you could go to school to be a back-end dev and learn how to set all this stuff up, or you could just do it. That'd be so cool.
I would rather just do it. What about you, Tyler? Is there one that you think of where you're just like, man, if not Memberstack, I wish I would have started X?
Yeah. So I have to check out Parabola. I haven't checked that out yet, but I think Parabola is similar to Zapier, kind of. But I would say probably Zapier, because just seeing what you can do and like the pieces that you can connect without writing code is just insane. We have a lot of users that are also using Zapier to connect Memberstack to other platforms, and just being able to do that without a developer and without code is huge.
Right. Do you guys use no-code tools yourself? Like, are you using Zapier in your own workflows? And if so, what are you using?
And do you use Webflow too?
Actually, our whole marketing site, web app, all is in Webflow. And I have a list of software. We have so much software.
I'm so excited for this. I love hearing about other people's stacks.
Same.
Right here. We actually had to make a list to keep track of them. So we just set up Google Voice. We're using a tool called Height for like task management internally. Sketch for design, although we're looking at Figma, just because now that our team's growing, I think there's a lot of advantages there. MixMax, Airtable, we use Airtable like crazy. So Natick is on the team now. He's the head of growth and operations for us. And he is an Airtable whiz. Oh my goodness. If there's like a problem, like we'll be talking in a meeting about a thing, and it's like this complicated problem. And by the end of that 30 seconds, he has an Airtable set up with a bunch of automations. Like, love that tool. Discourse for the forum. We have like payroll stuff, DigitalOcean, Redis, Scalegrid, Cloudflare, Algolia, PostMark, Heroku, Ngrok, New Relic, Webflow, QuickBooks, Front, Stripe, Zapier, SquareSpace, Duda, Card, Intercom, Loom, Segment, BrowserStack.
That is quite.
Wow.
I'm sure your monthly subscription bill is pretty up there for the tools. But it's cool to see like people like you two like using a lot of the popular ones, because I feel like you two, with what you've built, you've created like this new frontier of like how people can build for the web. Because like I use it myself. I've got a web app that I use Memberstack with, and it made it so much easier than having to worry about setting up any other type of user authentication system. I think Firebase was around at the time that I had set up my Memberstack site, but like Memberstack's experience, it's like so much easier. You have the videos, you have the docs. Like, I just think that it's just cool to see, you two with what you built. It's cool to see that you use no code tools as well. I think it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, definitely. That is really cool. So what would you say has been the hardest part of like building Memberstack? The most challenging part of it?
I feel like maybe Tyler and I could both give an answer to this. Tyler, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I feel like the first thing that comes to my mind is recognizing that we needed help. Like there was a point in time where like we had Memberstack built, and we had a couple hundred customers, and just the customer support involved was really eating into the time that it was taking away time from the actual product. And I think we spent like 2 months kind of going through that, saying, oh, I think we can just, keep this business with just between the two of us and not hire someone. Like, we'll just keep this small. And I think that was kind of like the most difficult thing for us, was just recognizing that we needed help and that we actually needed to hire people.
Yeah, I agree. That is exactly what I was going to say. And since we made that decision and made that transition, it has been a game changer. Oh my goodness. Just in terms of mental health, product, health, everything. It is so good. We're up to actually 6 people now. Lydia was the developer that Tyler mentioned. She started Monday. We have Josh, Molly, Natick, and then the 2 of us. And we're still hiring. So that was definitely the biggest bottleneck for a long time. Actually, I kind of want to like talk about that here for a second. It was probably in October of last year, things really started to slow down for us. And we were slow to recognize that like what was happening, but like it was really hard to release features for a while because it was the 2 of us and about 250 customers, and just not working. It was not working out. We could only do so many 12-hour days. And then only just recently have we like put the systems in place and the people around us so that we're able to like work reasonable hours. Everybody on the team works reasonable hours, and then can actually focus on the product, which is like all we do, all we want to do now. is just focus on the product.
What is it about the tech space? I feel like there's this weird stigma, like for like, if somebody asks for help, it's like, oh, well, I guess they don't know what they're doing. And there's also this vulnerability. Like if I ask for help, people are going to go, these guys run the company. Like I feel like that all the time. Like I'm supposed to be the person who knows the answer. It's weird to be the one asking for help, but like you have to. Is it weird navigating that space? And is there somebody in this kind of tech world who has been really good at guiding and helping you figure out where to go and get some of that help?
Well, I'd say we got really lucky. We got really, really lucky in a couple ways. Actually, in so many ways I can't describe right now. But to name the applicable ones, whenever we launched in Webflow, the community of like everybody there like pretty much owns a business or has clients, so they get it, right? And they would see something and then in a really respectful and like kind way point out like a solution. Like, I think you could tweak the UI in this way. I think you could make this better. So they offered advice, just knowing that it was what we needed, and they did it in such a helpful way. It was so nice. And then we got lucky again when we launched in Product Hunt, and we actually had a few folks who we have an announcement coming up pretty soon. So this will come out later, but we had some cool folks reach out and kind of paint a picture for a broader vision for Memberstack and help guide us through what that might look like and what it could take to get there. And then I think what we've been trying to do, because this is actually top of mind for me now that we're growing a team, is there are so many things that we don't know how to do yet. And it is scary to bring that up and talk about it. So we're trying to frame that as like, just what do we want to learn, right? What are the things we're excited to be able to do? And it shifts it from what's wrong with you right now to what are you going to be able to do? And that's been really nice.
No, that's great, because it's so, I don't know, it seems like there is this weird stigma in asking for help. And it's like, no, I mean, the more you can open up and learn, the more it broadens your depth of knowledge, more it shows you where you need to go and how you need to focus. So I love that. I was just curious because I know it seems like that's always a challenge.
Where do you see the long-term vision going? Like what is the goal for Memberstack? I would love to hear more about the roadmap and, maybe what you're working on in the short term, but also like, I would love to see where you see Memberstack in 5 years, 10 years, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, I guess, Tyler, is it cool I touch on the broader vision real quick and then we can bring it more near term? So I would say kind of the trend that we're noticing is that more so than ever, it's never been easier to build a website right now. And there's never been more software, but it's not easier than ever to build software, right? So we want to bridge that gap and let people who can build websites build software. Like that's where we see Memberstack going long term, right? Is that you can build a website, you can add user accounts, you can add payments. Eventually you'll be able to integrate with all these other tools that make a business run. And I think we've kind of checked the first box for a good number of people, and we have a long ways to go in terms of checking all those other boxes, but we want to. And we have a lot of cool resources and people around us now that I think we're going to be able to do that. That's
awesome. So you guys got an investment not long ago, right? Into Memberstack? Mm-hmm. I did. Okay.
And we can't say how much or who yet.
All good.
We can leave it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, all good. So do you feel like that has really helped accelerate your workflow, bringing on people? You're going to be able to push out new product releases. Do you feel like that's been a key component to this?
I guess either of us could talk about any of these questions. So if there's an awkward silence, it's Tyler and I looking at each other saying, who's going to answer this one? Tyler, do you want it?
Sure. I mean, I can touch on that briefly. I think it's definitely helped us out, just because of the network that we have, that we got access to through our investors has really like opened the door with us being able to ask questions to the people that we want to get answers from. So it's pretty rare when we have a question and we don't know the right person to ask, because we can just kind of tap into the network and get a good answer that way. But as far as like hiring, it's definitely helped us hire, because it shifted the conversation from, okay, we'll be able to afford this person in another 2 months to just, we can afford this person now. And that's definitely helped us out.
That's
no more of
amazing.
those. No more of those. Like, well, I don't know, Tyler. How long will it take you to do it? Instead of now, it's like, hey, there's multiple people to do this with.
I'm
That's
glad
cool.
you're growing. I'm glad you're growing the team because I remember like probably a year ago or something like that. I sent in a support request at like 11:44 p.m. on a Saturday night, and Tyler hit me back immediately. And part of me was like, "This is amazing," and then the other part of me was like, "Oh my god." Like, I hope this man can get some sleep at some point because like every time it's been like that, it's always been like you responding instantly, which I appreciate, but I also understand like you got to keep your sanity here. So I'm glad you're getting more help. What is the most interesting use case you've seen with Memberstack so far? Like, are there any cool projects that stick out that you can talk about?
Maybe because there's a couple different kinds of use cases we see. There are like people on the edges who are like pushing it beyond what we imagined when we first started. And then like one cool use case that was like really recent was this crew. I don't know, I need to ask them if I could share all the details, but this crew who lives like in Hawaii did this 1 week long sale where they got together with a bunch of influencers, put together this like digital asset, locked it behind Memberstack, offered it for 1 week, and made more than $1 million, basically $1 million
in 7 days. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. So they sold the asset just to people, and they use Memberstack and I guess Stripe to process the payment, I assume.
Exactly. Yep. They spun up the site in probably a couple hours because it was like their second site. So they probably designed it and just popped Memberstack in. And then they had payments, they had user accounts, they had gated content, and they had a business in a week.
Wow.
That's
that
unbelievable.
Is amazing. Yeah.
And like they had all the pieces, right? And like, because what they would have done in the past is hired a dev team for about 20 to 30 grand to spin up something that they would be able to use to offer this, or they would have gone with a service that would have taken like a 10% cut to actually make that work. So that's really cool. But Tyler, what else comes to mind?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, so a couple weeks ago, we tried to figure out like the most common use case that we see, and we realized that there's so many different types of businesses using Memberstack right now that it's like there's really not a particular use case that stood out. Mm-hmm. But I would say like I love to see when websites they'll use Memberstack, and then like a couple weeks will go by, and then they'll start playing around with like the metadata API that we have. Because I love to see people kind of extending the functionality of their site using that. And I think maybe a good example is we have quite a few sites that are customers that have like and save features on their site. So whether they're using Webflow or SquareSpace, they'll have a CMS somewhere, and they just want their members to be able to save items and like items, and they're able to do that through the
right.
Yeah.
What's the roadmap for the API? Because that's the part I'm really curious about. Because I remember one of the things that I sent in to report last year was like, I think you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong here. I think client or the user ID was not exposed for a certain period of time, and then maybe afterwards, or like maybe it probably wasn't recent, but at some point you started exposing the user ID. Are there more of these changes that we can expect to see as users down the road for the API specifically?
Definitely. Yeah, and that's one of the things that we're really excited about because of the Lydia, our latest hire. She's a back-end engineer, and she's like, her whole job is the API specifically, and she's really excited about it. So you can definitely expect to see us like exposing more features that are associated with API. And one thing that we realized a couple weeks ago is a lot of the things that we have internally. Like, for example, like the checkout modal that we have, or the profile modal, it's like we have the code there that's making those work, and we just need to expose that code and make it where you can tap into that yourself.
Mm-hmm. So kind of like how we see this going forward and how we're kind of structuring our roadmap is the goal when we release a feature is to make something that is useful to developers and designers, no coders and coders. So that whatever the situation is, because sometimes it's like a developer doesn't want to build their own UI, right? They don't want to build a custom profile UI. So plug and play, use ours. But maybe that is a priority for someone else, and we just want to have that available, that option there. And that's kind of the thing that makes us different than a lot of other folks out there.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions is how do you differentiate yourself? For those of you that haven't used Memberstack, what would you say?
I would say the thing that differentiates us is an emphasis on design, flexibility, and, well, I would say design is one of the big differentiators.
Yeah, and maybe on top of that is we try to get Memberstack as close to your website as possible. Like our number one goal is when someone's on your website, using your website, logging in, signing up, it shouldn't feel like you're using a plugin to make that stuff work. That's kind of like been our number one goal.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think the UI to me, the UI UX is just second to none. What are you personally each looking forward to in Memberstack in future iterations? Is there anything that you can share that's like on the roadmap that you're particularly pumped about?
Yes, I guess transition from, because we always have to be careful, right? There's like the aspirational thinking and the things that we like are moving towards, the more strategy, and then the things we're implementing. And I would say kind of I want to explain first how we like think about this and organize this. We have an Airtable, which I think has over 1,000 insights in it right now. Every single piece of customer feedback we get, whether it's email, audio, whatever, it goes into this form and then gets weighted and ranked in this system so that we can go through and create a roadmap based on that feedback. So the immediate roadmap is entirely inspired by our users and the things that are most important for their businesses. So those things include more integrations on the payment side and on just like the business side. Integromat was an example of something that is like, if we can unlock this, we unlock a lot for a lot of people. PayPal is one that there's no like hard deadline on that. There's probably another hire we're going to make before. So there's some things we need to work out, but it's like up there on the roadmap. Tyler, what else springs to mind?
Yeah, like one thing would be like social login. It's a request that we get quite a bit. People want to be able to have their members log in through like their Facebook or Gmail. So we want to make that possible. And then like Duncan said, we want to increase the number of integrations that we have, whether that be Integromat or Parabola. But along the same lines is increasing the integrations that we have like on the payment side. So PayPal, Apple Pay, Google Pay, just make it easier to pay for a service on a website. We also want to look at doing that. And I guess like just to talk about a few things on the kind of developer side, like we know we want to have a backend API. So we want to make it where developers can use Memberstack and access all their Memberstack data through like programmatically through an API. And I know something that Duncan is really, really excited about, and we're both really, really excited about, is just increasing design flexibility. So those pre-built modals that we have, we want to make it where you can change more, I guess, aspects of them to make it feel more like your site. But those are the first things that come to mind.
And then one other thing, because I realized there's like the thing we're working on right now and the thing we're actively doing is we consider Memberstack more of like advanced MVP stage in the life cycle of a business or a product. There are things we want to do to shore up the product. Like there are things like browser compatibility, just member management type stuff, being able to like bulk edit members, like being able to change a membership, things that you would expect to have that the only reason they haven't been built is because like we have such a cool community and people who are really excited about it. And we needed to just like go ahead and scale up a little bit. So now that we are scaling up, we're going to be able to get that stuff done pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Was it difficult figuring out what positions you needed to hire for once you did decide to take that leap?
I don't think it was too hard actually, because the conversation Tyler and I always had, and this was even with the landscaping company, was if we have another friend, if we make another friend who loves just like the business side of things and the marketing side of things as much as I love design and you love building things, we need to just like bring that person on as quickly as possible. And what worked out really well is about the time when we decided we were going to grow the company, Natick was a customer and he was working on a project called Next Billion, which was essentially a company, it was a nonprofit, which connected people with disabilities to companies in tech. And he was the CEO, he was managing the startup, he was doing all like these, like wheeling and dealing with massive companies like Palantir and Hootsuite. And he decided to step down from that and reached out to us. And it was like, oh, this is perfect. Like we need to, so we spent the next like 6 months getting to know each other, seeing if it was really going to work out. And then he joined the team. So it was like, we knew we needed that for a long time. And then the support side, Molly joined, she reached out to us. I think I found out today, she learned about us through Nelson's video, the Pixel Geeks video. And so she joined the team on the support side. So it's really just come from the community, and then the needs it becomes clear. I think maybe we wait too long where it really becomes a problem and we know we need to solve it. But at the same time, we want to like grow a lean team. So I think we'll keep trying to find that balance.
Yeah. How has it been from going from like working directly on the product, like you're the first touch point with the customers, you're doing everything that you can, and then now like you're managing a business, you're managing employees. How has that transition been?
Tyler, what do you think?
It's a good question.
I can go first if I could buy you some time.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's been a joy. And I will attribute that entirely to the people who we get to work with every day. It is just an absolute joy to get to work with people who are like excited to get up and do things and like understand why we're doing this and who it is we're like working for. Because at the end of the day, all of us on the team, we're just working for people who want to like build and grow online businesses, whether it's their first one or for a client or whatever. So even though right now, essentially everything in my mind is product. Everything we are doing is like, how does this go into that? How does this go into the product and have a meaningful impact on our user base now and in the future? So even though like today, for example, we were trying to think about the content strategy for Memberstack as a whole, it felt like a product conversation.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll add to that. Oh, like so many lawyers, so many at the same time. It's like there's a lot of stuff that it's a lot. Running a business is hard. I have so much sympathy and empathy for anybody starting or growing a business.
So to step in here as you finish this, more thoughts, but like, is it also kind of like bittersweet because your role starts to shift? Instead of doing so much design, you're like, well, I'm spending a lot more time with lawyers, and instead of coding, you're spending more time, setting up all these different entities and trying to make sure everything works the way it's supposed to, and everybody has what they need from a benefit standpoint. I'm sure there's just like a lot of these things that happen. So, is there that part of you that's like, dang, I wish I was still, some days I wish I could come in and just design all day, or what's that been like as far as transition?
Mm-hmm. I know for me personally, I've been trying to do a better job of setting aside that time and just owning that time. Like if I don't get to email that day, I'm sorry, but I didn't get to email that day. Product, I had to design something today. Right. So being okay with that, but more importantly, is just Tyler and I are really frugal. I would say some people would say cheap, but we just like doing what needs to get done, investing so that we do have more time to be able to do other things. And this is a funny thing I learned yesterday. I was listening to an interview with Elon Musk about, Sam Altman, the YC founder, was interviewing him. And it turns out Elon Musk, right, the owner who I think of like this business, like tycoon, he spends like 80% of his time on design and engineering. And he's just surrounded himself with really smart people who he trusts to do the business part. So I think there's definitely something like we need to take more from that and make sure we keep doing that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So where do you see that there are more tools needed in the no code space? Or, well, yeah, let me go ahead and say, or if you could build another tool right now, what would it be?
We haven't messed with the idea. We before we started Memberstack, we had a list of like 200 ideas of things that we thought would be cool to have. I can tell you one thing, it's a personal need. If anybody listening out there solves this, let me know. We will be your customer. Is a unified point of search for customer support. We have all these channels for support and we're answering questions over and over again. But if as you were typing like a chat, if you were able to get a list of like forum posts and help center articles and all that stuff, I would love that product. Intercom is starting to do it a little bit. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah.
I got some ideas for you on that front.
Oh yeah.
That's really interesting. So like a way to, I guess, sync up all the conversation, everything, the chatter around a particular topic or instance is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
What
just
about
like
you?
no code support tools, I think, in general. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What do you think, Tyler? What other tools are needed, or if you could, build something else, what would it be?
Yeah. So I'm just kind of thinking like a common problem that I think we as a team have right now, or something that's, I feel like it's more difficult than it should be, which is just like meeting management. It's like we have all these Zoom links flying around. We have these like Google Hangout links flying around, and like most of the time I'm in the wrong link, or like Zoom just like won't work for some reason. And it's like thinking about a way to leverage all these tools that already exist, like Google Hangouts and Zoom, but just provide a way just to kind of like manage those links in an easier way, and scheduling them in an easier way.
I just thought of another one. I don't think I definitely wouldn't be qualified to build this, but I think there's going to be this huge divide as like more companies start rolling basic AI, right, and like analytics into, it's already happening with marketing, right? Like being able to understand like who the customer is before they even get to your website, and then like personalize it and customize it. And it's just going to be, I think it's going to create this massive divide. But if someone can take that and make it simpler and more affordable, like I know there are companies like Clearbit and stuff, but it's not really accessible yet.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And those things are kind of creepy to me, honestly.
Yeah.
I went to I won't say what it is to not upset them, but I went to a website the other day, and when I got there, it said hello, and then I was on a company server, and it pulled in the company's name, and I was like, that is just really uncomfortable for me that you can do that. I don't know. I mean, I think that there's really great, knowledge to be gained from like customer insights, but then I think there's a line too where it's just kind of creepy. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that feels that way, but I just think it's creepy. They're all shaking their head.
Yeah, who thinks it's creepy? I think it's creepy.
Creepy. I'm for creepy.
Everyone's raising their hand. Good. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I know that's happened to me before too, and it is kind of like, wait, how do they know that? They shouldn't know that information.
No, It's like the phenomenon of seeing something and opening Instagram and seeing an ad for it an hour later, and you're like, I don't think that they're listening, but I don't like this. I don't know what's happening here, and it's really freaking me out. So
it was and this is off topic, or not off anyway. My sister has sister has TikTok, and I do too. And we were talking about Montana. She's moving to Montana. And I was like, she was showing me all these beautiful videos and all that. And then my TikTok feed starts showing videos of Montana. And I was like, this is creepy. Like, this is just that. I don't know if they're listening or not. They're probably hearing me say this right now, and they're going to start sending me personalized messages, but it's just creepy. Anyway, that was a tangent. Sorry. Bringing it back.
I think it does tie into the whole no code movement though. Cause it's like, it's part of this idea is like, as we create new technology and it's only available to a few, like they're the ones who get to decide what happens. Like they'll have this outsized effect, but if we're able to take these tools and make them available to more people, like it levels the playing field.
Yeah, definitely.
We can choose. So if more people are using it, hopefully more people will choose to use it responsibly and not creepy.
Right. Unless marketing dollars are involved. Well, that was all the questions I had. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to VisualDev.fm. You can find us on your favorite social media platform at VisualDevFM.